business leaders and surgeons and barristers. I see women who are going to win elections and science competitions and arts awards.
Do not be afraid to fail.
We can
All right, Talk community. It has been some time since I've been before you, and I have to admit I'm a little, nervous having come back and not have been in practice for a couple of weeks. But I am happy to be before you again to do what I love, and that is discussing taboo topics in the community that impact me and impact the people around me. So welcome back. We are back for our annual back to school special, which is something that we've had into play for a number of years. And this year is a little bit different. So I'm excited for the presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy what we have for you. For those of you that are new to this platform, my name is Tiffany. I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade and a community activist at heart. And after a number of years in the social services industry, I just came to a mutual agreement with myself that I needed to give more of myself and do more with the skills that I have established over time. And that is where this platform, JKC Marketing, was birthed. And this is our media group where we have a bi-weekly podcast to discuss taboo topics that we are combating in the community. And today, as I mentioned, is our back to school special. So I'm excited to get into it. I am going to hand it over to my guest so that she can introduce herself and give a little insight about how her experience plays into the topic of today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Jeffries. I am a newly self-published children's book author. I wrote my first children's book titled Being a Bully Sting. So I'm excited to bring that to schools, to families. I am an educator. I've been in education for this is year 7 for me as teacher of record. I did go to school for education. However, I stepped away and then I came back. I've taught science. I've taught ELA. That's my jam. Reading, that I can't tell you anything about math. But I love all things reading. I have been a teacher specialist and I am now a resident principal. So I'm ready to spread all of this Black girl magic around the school campus.
Yes, to the Black girl magic. Yes, I am excited. And I'm excited for you. Congratulations on this new role and this transition. Like it's a beautiful transition to kind of come from overtime and being able to do the work frontline and now supervise. So congratulations. I love that for you.
Thank you.
So for our parents, if you have not started the preparation and back to school, I'm gonna just say you behind because it's in 2 weeks for us that are in HISD. And for me, when it comes down for back to school, it is not only challenging for me as a parent, it's challenging for my kids. And we oftentimes, come from this summer of relaxation and living free and free-spirited to having to go back into structure, go back into strategies, go back into routines. So for me, it's a challenge. And that's outside of the supply list that I have to challenge every year, outside of the new environments that I have to introduce my kids to, and just the overall processes and strategies that go into back to school. So today we're going to talk about tips and strategies to have a successful school year and to maintain that, because it's all about being able to maintain and sustain throughout the year. So we're going to talk from the parents' perspective and give some insight on how exactly we can do that. Now, Brittany just shared her new venture as a self self-published author. And I think it's important to start there. Would you mind sharing with us just some insight of the transition into author, where your inspiration came from for the book, and a little bit more about the book itself?
Sure. Okay. So, as I stated, I was in the classroom teaching. So that's where the title stemmed from. But let's go back a little bit to just my passion for writing. Just growing up in a single parent house, I don't know about y'all, but the fear of communicating with your parent, which is something that we need to discuss more in the house now, having that open communication, which I'm going to bring up later. But just the fear of, well, I can't tell my mama this because I'm gonna get in trouble, things like this. So I would always write. So that's what I would write things, and then that transition to school when I would take notes. And I used to always say, I have a photographic memory because if I write it, I remember it. So tests or even in transitioning into college, just taking notes, just writing. So my love for writing came from there. And then I was always creative, making up stories as I would write. So when I was teaching, I taught third grade, then I looped to fourth grade. And so fourth grade is where I experienced the most bullying. Like and it's just a non-negotiable in my classroom. Like, you bully, I'm putting you out. Like, it was bad. But so that's where it stemmed from. Like, I experienced to where I had a student that wanted to commit suicide. So I had to sit through that. And I had some real like mean girls. And when I say I've never experienced that, so that's where this bully book stemmed from, being a bully things, because I literally had to sit them down. I had to go from teacher to counselor to sit them down to talk about how their words had power, how their words hurt, and the things that it was causing this other student to feel. And so I had to experience that. And like, it took a big toll on my mental, because to see this kid go through this, to not show up at school, to self-harm themselves to the fact to where I don't want to be here anymore because of these mean girls. And so literally portion of my class was me teaching that over teaching them content, because that held more power in my classroom. And so from that day forward, it was just a non-negotiable thing for me. Like, you come here with that, and I would let parents know at open house, like from the beginning, if I see it, if I sense it, if I smell anything, they gotta go. Like, it won't be tolerated. So that's where the book stemmed from. And then a lot of it, I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet, but I put emphasis on how nobody said anything back to the bully. And so that was kind of what was happening in my classroom. Kids will say, oh yeah, well, and like when I bring it up, but if we see it happening, we got to say something. We got to tell an adult. You don't always have to address that person because you don't know how they will react, but you definitely want to tell an adult, because it's going on and it's building up, and then we don't know how long it's been happening. And so with that particular situation with that student, it was something that transitioned from third grade into fourth, something that had been ongoing. And so at fourth grade, just at the tender age of 8, 9, like, it was like, I don't want to be here anymore. So that became like a big issue for me. So that's where being a bully stings come.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just want to say wow, because that's what I'm processing now, is just wow. It is so very sad to hear that, because number one, having heard from like third grade to a full another year, having that experience, that takes a toll on any one person, especially a child, number one. So for me, I have had the opportunity to read the book. And what I appreciate is that not only did you give feelings to words, but you also made clear of what those feelings feel like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So being able to say, this is the gut-wrenching feeling that I'm having with going to school because of this feeling of having to deal with this particular person. I won't go into detail because y'all need to read the book too.
Yes.
Read the book. To buy the book for your kids, because your kids need to know this.
Yes.
But that's what I really appreciate. And also the language that was used in the book. I feel comfortable sharing this book with my 6-year-old just as well as with my 10-year-old. And for me, we experienced bullying early on in my family with my now 17-year-old. And I will never forget, the teacher just was not an advocate. And we had a very bad experience to the point where I had to act my color and my age at the time. And mind you, I was in my 20s then. So I was a different parent.
Right.
But for me, the fact that my child was in the care of the school, the care of this teacher, and no one advocated for her. And when we had this discussion, it was kind of minimized. That really hurt me as a parent. But it also taught me the very clear understanding that we all don't come from the same beginnings, number one.
Right.
So every child in every classroom don't come from the same beginnings. They have different experiences, and those things translate very differently. And I couldn't do anything about this child and her experience and how those things were translated. So I taught my daughter very early on how to advocate for herself. And now that she's 17, that's something that she appreciates more and more on a daily basis. But I made it clear that she understood that her responsibility as a student, as a scholar, as a person, as a young lady, was to advocate for herself. And in advocating for herself, she was able to, say something, even when it wasn't her place to say something, which makes me a double-edged sword now. Because as it's translated into her high school years, when she changed schools, I don't think the teachers was ready for her to advocate for herself because they hadn't, had that same experience. But when we talk about, people coming from different walks of life, then I feel like that also translate into how you parent.
Right.
How I was parent definitely impacts how I parent now, and I believe overall I had really good, wholesome parents, and they did the best that they were able to do, at that point in their life. And they provided me with a good, upbringing and things like that. But not everybody gets that. And me and my husband, we have this conversation all the time about how we can't control what goes on outside of our household, and how our goal within our household is to parent from an authoritative place. So have that open communication that you talked about. In the democracy may not always be good with the people that live in my house.
Yep, I agree.
But having that open communication and making sure that open communication is transferable is what has saved us in our parenting, and what has, I think, to a certain extent, protected our children as they go out into the world.
Yep, I agree. And those little nuggets, and it seems like as you are constantly sharing those things, and I tell my daughters too, I was like, one day that light bulb gonna come on, or you're gonna remember something I said. So it may seem like it's in vain, or it may seem like they're not listening, but trust me, like I see it in my 17-year-old now. Like, okay, she finally getting it. Like, cause there's some days I'll be like, Lord, what am I doing? What is she not getting it? But in due time.
I have come to the conclusion, when it comes to teenagers, it's them, it's not us.
Yeah.
It's them, it's not us. And what I try to do is try to just emphasize positivity in our household across the board.
Yeah.
And I think if we as parents can come from that place all the time, as hard as it may be, that is a great place to start, and a great place to kind of translate the expectation, the responsibility, and the overarching goal. So one question that I kind of really want to pick your brain about is, what is a word of advice or a tip or a strategy that you feel translates for both parents and students?
Okay, so when I think about the word translate, we're gonna go back to that communication word, because that's powerful for both the parent and the child. When you establish that healthy communication, let's say healthy communication, and as parents, we got to realize how powerful our words are. So when we speak those things, we, like you said, we want to speak positive things. We want to make sure we're transparent in our communication. And that's something I learned. I should have put my stuff on silent. I'm sorry. That's something I learned as a mother of a teenage daughter, that like I had to be transparent, because when you think about the outside influences that the world have, it's like, okay, you were a teen too. Like, you went through some of these things. So before the world teaches them, as a parent, you want to make sure you teach them, and that starts with that communication. So that's one thing. The second thing that I would say is knowing your child's love language and letting your child know how you want to be loved, or like how you show love, because you could be constantly, and I see it in education, where kids come to school, they're dressed nice, kids buying them nice shoes, doing this, but they know where the love is. They're loving on their teacher, or they're loving on the staff, but at home there's a disconnect, because you buying all those things for that kid doesn't mean anything to them, but are you spending quality time with them? Or are you affirming them daily? So know how your kid desires to be loved, and then vice versa. Share with your kid, like, I love it when you guys will wash the dishes, or, some acts of service, just little things like that. Like, that helps fill mommy bucket. So I think that's a big thing, or some tips to help, when you're trying to foster a healthy relationship between both at home. Empathy. That's a big one. Like, show them that you care. Show them that you are concerned about others. And it teaches them how to do that, especially when we go back to the bullying. Having empathy for that person, or, just to be kind to others. And then independent. And I say that because as parents, we want to, we always, or if you're like me, a single parent, we're very independent. But at the same time, if we want to teach our kids how to have those decision-making skills, it's going to come with giving them a little independence as they grow. A lot of times we coddle our kids, especially as they grow, and then we never prepare them for the real world because we've done so much for them, and then the real world gets them and swallow them up. So those
I love that. I love that and agree with it all. I probably could do better with understanding my kids' love languages. I do feel like, and I've made it clear to them, especially my 10-year-old, is that I have to love and appreciate them all very differently, because they have different personalities. And what works for one doesn't always work for the other. And I do understand that love languages and how you love, it evolves over time. So that's a conversation that I've had very transparently with my 10-year-old, and that I'm learning with my 6-year-old, because he's a Gemini #1, and that in itself,
that's a good part. I'm a Gemini. That's a good person.
he is a great person, and he has such a very full personality. And because he has the full personality, you never know which full personality you're going to get on which day at what time. So for him, I have to love him very differently in different parts of the day and different components for, the things that he needs from me. So I definitely agree with the love languages, and I need to read more about it when it comes to my girls, because them girls, they're a little different.
Right. That's what mine. So, and I don't want to get into astrology, but they're both Leos, but they're night and day. So I definitely have to be, like you said, learn to appreciate, love on them and differently, because they're total opposite. But yeah, so that's important. Like that's very important.
I think another thing for me that I've been very clear with my kids about when it comes to translation is my expectations and my goals across the board. And being realistic about those things. So throughout the year, I challenge them to set goals. And in return of those goals, I set expectations. I would say we come to a mutual agreement about expectations.
Mhm.
And in the summertime is more of a fun thing. What goals do you have for the summer? What do you want to learn this summer? What do you
Like
want
that.
to, yeah, what do you want to learn? What do you want to be challenged? And what do you want to do that's something fun? So we have that conversation, and I allow them, like you said, the independence to plan out that. And then I'm kind of, the overhead, like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we probably need to, change a couple of things, but we can get as close to that goal as possible. But with all of them, I make sure that they have what I consider to be like immediately aligned goals to meet the overarching goal. So one thing for my daughter, she changed schools because she had goals in mind. She wanted to be in cosmetology. Her school did not offer that. So we came to a mutual understanding that she was going to go to our alma mater. And she went in with the kind of deck stacked against her. She went in midway her sophomore year. And unfortunately, the teacher was like, well, we normally start in a freshman. You can take it as an elective, but in order to receive the licensure, you would have to complete X number of hours. So probably the first year, like the second semester of sophomore and the first semester of junior, she was like kind of nervous of, am I gonna really be able to do this? Is this something that I can, really achieve? And when I say she went in and she surpassed her own goals and our goals for her, girl is looking at taking her license in January.
Okay.
And she started like far beyond what some of the freshmen started, but she has the hours that she's put in to accumulate to do that. And when she had those moments where she was like, Mom, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, and I gotta be here for this amount of time doing class and after school. I'm like, hey, Jaden, let's sit down. How many hours do you need this month? If you need this amount of hours this month, what does that translate to for a week? What does that translate to for a day? You want to go on this trip. Can you take the time out to go on the trip? So I think when it comes down to being realistic, that's one thing that I would have to say my husband and I are very clear about. And we try to align with them how to accomplish those goals. And I think so far we've been overall successful. We'll see. We got a senior this year and we got a fifth grade. We just keep us in your prayers. We don't know what the school year gonna look like, but we're gonna put forth definitely a good conscious effort. So as we talk about like the translation and the love language and the strategies, what like tip do you have for our parents that will make a successful school year?
So for the parents, I will start off by for a successful school year, get organized, like, map out, like, let me go back. I would say the parent involvement. When I say that, before I say parent involvement at school, like connecting with the teachers, know what's going on at your campus, the parent involvement with your kid. So once you know that school is getting ready to start, like you said in the beginning, if you haven't started prepping for back to school now, you're late. You're too late. So that parent involvement piece is key, because we know school comes around August the same time every year. So how can I better prepare each time? And so what I say about that, let's get a planner, or in your iPhone calendar or your Google calendar, put those important dates in there that pertains to your child's education. It's not on your child to say, Mom, we have meet the teacher tonight. It should already be in your calendar to know that I have to prioritize this because I need to be more involved when it comes to my child's education. So those important dates, even if they're involved in extracurricular activities at school, put those dates in there, because when we go back to that communication piece, when we go back to fostering healthy relationships in the home, that plays a big part of how involved you are with them. A lot of times I see where parents are relying on the kids to not only be the communicator, to be the babysitter of the youngest siblings, to cook dinner, to to take on these adult tasks
Mm.
and still come to school daily and try to get a good education. So as parents, my tip is to let's parent this school year. Let's actually parent. And then it was a saying, like we used to say last year, like these parents ain't parenting like they used to, like because the discipline, like things like, so let's parent this year. Let's make that a thing this year. Let's actually parent. So let's organize, let's prioritize our tasks. Like, yes, we work, but our kids are a priority. So yes, we work, we come home tired, but let's set aside at least an hour or so to make sure we sign what papers need to be signed. We assist with whatever homework we need to assist. And if we can't, because of our work schedule, let's create a system that works for our household, because it's different in every household. There are single parents, there are different work shifts, things like that we understand, but let's create a system that works because we do have kids. We can't just put them off, because I've seen where kids don't get homework signed, they don't get paper signed, but let that be a field trip. Oh, they have it signed. Like they want that, so it's just, let's create systems at home. I would say even, and I want to piggyback off what you said, set goals, like set those goals with the kids, and set those goals for yourself. Like, even if it's just being a better parent or going to at least one game or talking with my manager ahead of time to make sure that I can be active. Sign up for PTO. Like, sign up, be involved, like sign up for PTO, go to coffee with the principal, like put that on your schedule to make it a habit to try to at least, or set that goal to try to at least attend one this school year. Be engaged in their learning. Kids, be engaged in your learning. This is going to be a interesting years, especially if you're in HISD. We have a new superintendent, a new curriculum. So teaching your kids how to adjust at home, to be engaged, to ask questions. I'm big on that. Whatever you don't know, if you're unclear, raise your hand and ask a question. And if it's something that you don't get an answer to, come home and ask me, tell me, and I'm going to ask. Like, so teach them to ask questions, to be engaged in their learning. And then parents, please make it a habit to celebrate your kids' success, whether it's big or small. When I was a teacher and even as a administrator now, I am big on celebrating kids' success. If it's tying the shoe, if it's pre-K going to the restroom, no accidents, if it's not getting in trouble, if it's being able to write a full paragraph, like celebrating those success, because their reward is so far-fetched, especially in grade school. They don't see graduation. They don't see the big picture. So I used to tell parents, if you don't want your kids eating Takis or candy, don't put them in my class, because whatever they getting it. And it doesn't always have to be something tangible.
Mhm.
It could be a hug, it could be a certificate. It's I'm proud of you, Debbie, but I see you. So things like that. So parents, try to celebrate your kids' success. Depending on your situation, it might not be going out to eat. It might not be buying them something. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be something tangible, but a simple little note. Mommy's proud of you, daddy's proud of you, or keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Things like that matters, and that helps build confidence in their kids, and it gives them something to boast about, so, and feel good about. So those are my tips.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Not only celebrating every success and every win, but both parent and student or scholar being engaged in their learning.
Yes.
Because I'm a firm believer, although I send my kid to school and they're there 8 hours a day, it's like I'm at work for 8 hours a day, and y'all may spend more time with the child than the parent do. The learning starts at home. So
Yep.
I'm your first teacher.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, very vividly, I can probably hear my mom's voice in my ear as I say it. When you walk out this house, you're a representation of me.
Yeah.
So because you're a representation of me, that means when you go to school, your teacher needs to see me and see that I'm your first teacher and that it starts here. So I love that. I love the advocacy part. That's something that, like I said, I started with my 17-year-old, and I reinforced that with my boys, because my boys are in school. My youngest baby boy is going to be in the first grade, which I have a lot of anxiety about. And then my oldest son is going to the 5th grade. But even with him, he hasn't always felt comfortable standing up for himself. And I've had to work on his confidence and making sure that he's comfortable with standing up for himself. And like you said, having that open communication, because he needs to be heard. And it's only right for him to feel that there's someone there to listen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I love that. I'm not going to join the PTO. Let's start there. I'm not. But I will definitely make a conscious effort to participate in like the muffins with moms and things like that. I love that engagement piece of it. And I definitely I've started the process of being organized. Like I started August 1st, like we need to get the house in order. We need to reorganize the pantry. We need to reorganize the fridge. So when it comes down for lunches, you already know I'm gonna put some late. They're gonna be in for a rude awakening, because they're gonna have labels by the end of the week. It ain't gonna be 3 applesauces going to school. So yeah, we've definitely started on that. And I try to do my part with like prepping them on the curriculum. So I buy them books so they can start working on their workbooks, so they can start reading, even more than they've already have. So they'll have a little bit of leadway when they do go to school. So definitely parents, like Brittany said, get organized. It's going to make life so much easier, number one.
Yes.
Definitely be engaged and involved in your kids' education. Yes. You can't blame teachers for what you're not doing at home.
That part.
I said again for somebody that made that face. Yes. You can't blame teachers for what you're not doing at home.
Yes.
Bam. Okay, so before I piss anybody off, I'm gonna move on to the next question. So for me, I have had like an ongoing trouble and challenge with the things that are outside of my control as a parent. And it's probably because I'm a control freak to a certain extent. But one of the things that is always like such a challenge for me and my husband is social media. Because that is something that is outside of our control, but has such a big impact on this generation. And we have done our very best to kind of go along with the tide. But even in that, there's so many drawbacks and what we can't control that our children have access to. And one thing that I love about the book is how you highlight the differences that, people have on a day-to-day life. And also how important it is for speaking up when you see that there is a difference and you see someone being bullied, when you see someone being targeted, or you see someone being hurt and harmed by words or actions. And my daughter has this belief that bullying is not as big in person as it is, on social media. And for me, I believe that it's twofold. I mean, I may not see it on social media, but I know that it's happening. Yes. I may not be in the school and see it, but I know it's happening because I've had my own experience. So when we talk about like the worry and woes that goes with social media, the impact that it has on body imagery, the impact that it has on our kids' anxiety, their mental health, I'm always just curious, especially with the, imposter syndrome that has gotten so much light more recently. Is there any way that we as parents can combat those things, or at least prepare for those things?
So as an educator, I agree with your daughter, like the social media bullying, the cyberbullying is a big thing. Like we get that a lot. Like that's getting to the point to where it's like trumping everything else, the social media, because that's their world. They are on social media day and night, like day and night, like they're on there all day. So like you said, social media is going to be there. We can't control that, but we can control what we or what our I was going to say we can't control what we consume or what we allow on our social media feeds, but again, like I tried to, like you said, we got to go with the times. And like when I was talking to my daughter's dad about it, because we went through no social media till you in high school. Like we used to like, and then she would sneak and make a page. And then her cousins would be like, well, she has a page. And I'm like, no, she doesn't. Like she can, we're going through the phone, we're checking the phone, but they find a way to have, so I'm checking for apps, I'm doing this, but they're hiding it. They're logging in through the web. Like, so I had to say, okay, as much as we're punishing taking phone, like this is their generation, like this is their thing. So no matter how much we take it away or say you can't have it, how can we, like you said, combat those things or manage it in our home? Because we can't control what others are doing. We can't control what their friends are doing, things like that. But we can try to make sure that we speak life and speak those positive things to our children so that when they do encounter those things that challenge their mental or social being, or that makes them question why I look this way and don't look like this, or oh, there's this new challenge where they're eating this or they're not eating this, then the social media influence is so heavy to where as a parent you have to come up again. I'm a routine person. So it's just like, okay, as for me in my house, what are we going to do? So as me in my house, so we do like digital detox. So, and what that is literally like either and it stemmed from, it was a social media trend like some years back where it was a group of girls, like it was like a social media meme or something, like whoever touches their phone first have to pay for the bill. So we brought that home. So it's with the digital detox, but you got to put that phone away. Like, so create those opportunities in your home where you touch your phone or go to your phone. Like there's a consequence, and it doesn't have to be anything bad, but maybe you're going to clean these baseboards, like, things that they don't want to do. Like, and so they start doing it. And then it became to where my daughter was like, Mama, you got to put that phone down. You can't answer, like, and you're right, because I started this, so you got to be consistent with it. And so when you consistently do those things, they pick up on those habits to where, no, Mom, this is a part of our routine. This doesn't have to be something you do every day, but maybe plan it out throughout the week to where this is our digital detox day. We come home, there's no phone. There's no going in your room, closing the door. Like, that's going back to about, how we were parent, kind of influencing how we parent. So you got to change the norm. So you got to do those things differently. So I would definitely say, parents, try to consider the digital detox. Speak those things, those positive things to your kids. Affirm them. Let them know that they're beautiful. Let them know that this is how God made you. But you can also encourage them about healthy lifestyle. So if they are dealing with the way their body looks or their health wise, speak those healthy things to them, like exercise with them, practice good eating habits, talk about getting enough sleep. So things like that can kind of help with the things that they may see on social media that may have an influence on how they view themselves as a person. But like you said, a lot of the things that they encounter on social media, we can't control it. But one thing, having a teenage daughter to where like 15 and 16, we went through the communication struggle of, it was silent, like going into the room, closing the door. And believe it or not, social media created a bond between us, because it started out with, okay, I'm trying to learn TikTok. I'm trying to learn these things because as an educator, I want to be connected with my kids. But at the same time, I have kids. And so it was a matter of, we just started sending TikToks, sending memes back and forth to each other, things like that. So now the things that she see on social media and she sends me, it kind of opens up a conversation window for us, because it's like, well, mama, this, and like the incident with the girl who went missing, who stopped for the kid on the side of, like, I sent her that video, which she didn't ask me, like, so, because we didn't have that at first, to where she willingly came to me to have conversation. But I can say TikTok and me engaging into the social media world with her kind of opened up that window to where it's now she's willing to come. Like, we see things, even inappropriate things like that. And it's like, okay, this is why I get on you about this, because of things like this. So it's kind of like using that this or that type of thing with them. So don't kind of like shut them out, because if you don't have that transparency in your home, especially with social media and the things that they see, then, like I said, the world and that social media is going to have an influence over them, to where wherever you try to stay is going to be too late.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. I definitely agree with modeling behaviors.
mm-hmm.
And I learned my own kind of negative is such a strong word. my bad behaviors are not so good behaviors with my phone as a result of my 10-year-old, because it was kind of like, this platform, a lot of it is social media, a lot of it is media management, and coming home and being on my phone. For me, I'm working, I'm preparing for the next episode, I'm preparing my post for the next week, I'm sending out all this information, I have my laptop and my iPad and all that. And for them, it translated as if I was just haphazardly online. But it was my 10-year-old that was like, well, mama, you on your phone type thing. So him challenging me and head checking me made me be more mindful of how much time that I put in, on screen times. And I had gotten to the point where I needed to develop a good, like, nighttime regimen and sleep regimen. And because of that, to help me, I made it where for myself, an hour before bedtime, no screen time, no TV, no iPad, no nothing. And that's something that I plan to implement for them during the school year. And also have a charging station for them, where it's like, you turn in your device at the end of the night. That way I know you're not on it. And that way I know you got a good night of sleep, because I can see your phone from my bed.
Yeah, I like that.
I love the idea of doing a detox. That's something that I've never done before. And I love having it like one day out of the week for the entire house. So that's something that I'm definitely gonna, have a conversation with my husband about, to be, to see if that's something that we can implement, because I think that would be definitely fulfilling, even if it's not a full 24 hours, a couple of hours on the Sunday. We can do that, because we've definitely done put your phone in the middle of the table, and if you touch your phone, then you paying for dinner. And that has worked.
Yes, it has.
I feel like we can do the detox. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that. I think another thing for me with social media, especially with the negative connotation that always comes with social media, is being able to highlight to my kids having, modeling, and practicing healthy social dynamics with people. They see my relationship with my friends, and because I model what that looks like, I want to be clear that that should be the standard for them, Right. So that's something that I feel that I do as a parent, and that I push for them. And I always tell my kids, like, you don't have to always be friends with people, and everybody is not your friend. And you need to be able to place people in what role they play in your life. Sometimes that's just a classmate.
Right.
Sometimes that's just a lab partner. Sometimes that's a friend. Sometimes that's an associate. And let's make sure that we know the difference, so that you can have a protective instinct for yourself, but so that
Mhm.
you can always also set healthy boundaries with people.
Yeah.
Because the boundary is not just for you, it's for them as well. And it's not just for them, it's for you. So I think those are things that I try to reinforce when it comes to social media, but also accountability with them, because I want to be clear, everything on social media comes with a filter. Like you can put an unfiltered photo and it still be filtered, because people are only going to post what they want you to see.
Right.
So I try to reinforce that to them. My 6-year-old went through this thing last week where he was just wasting food and destroying my eggs because he seen something on YouTube. And I had to have this conversation with him. Like, Betty, do you know how much eggs cost? We're not out here wasting eggs. We're not out here having experiments with eggs. And I had to tell him, like, if this is something that you want to explore, if you want to see the inside of the egg, let's have a conversation about it. That way we can come to a mutual understanding on how we're going to explore the inside of the egg instead of me just finding broken eggs around the house. It was devastating for me. I'm still trying to get over it. But I think when it comes down for social media, one thing that I'm really trying to reinforce and model for my kids is boundaries, healthy boundaries, healthy social dynamics with their friends, with their peer groups, with their associates and those that they interact with, but also accountability. So I'm hoping that they stick.
Yes.
So as we kind of wrap up, because we've talked about a lot today, a lot of great awesomeness, from love languages to open communication to now like social detox and how to prepare and be organized for school, but the engagement component for both the parent and the scholar or student, and their responsibility. With all of that we've covered today, what is your final takeaway that you want to be clear, to be transparent, and something that sticks with our audience?
If there's anything that I could leave with you in Tiff Talks podcast is, and this is a big, big, big thing for me. And then of course you'll get that feel when you read my book, is to be kind. Like this year, and this is for parents and for the scholar, be kind. Parents, be kind to your kids, to their teacher, to their administrators. Kids, be kind to your teacher, to your classmates, to students that are not your classmates, to other adults. Like, be kind, because it has such a profound impact to others when you're kind. And when you're kind, it's reciprocated. When you're kind, it's contagious. When you're kind, it's genuine. And when you're kind, it's a choice. So if I could leave you with anything, be kind.
I love that. Okay, everybody, you heard it. Like, that was so simple, so clear, but so profound. If you can't remember it, then please write it down, put it on the sticky, type it in your phone, say it over and over again, make it an affirmation. Make an affirmation. What has really worked with my 6-year-old has been affirmations. And that is a great affirmation. Simply be kind. Start the day there. It's like starting the day with gratitude. Just wake up and be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to all of those that you interact with, and allow that to carry you throughout the day and throughout the school year.
Yay.
You have been so awesome. This has been like a great way to kick off our season 7. And I appreciate you for taking time out and for being a part and for sharing just your time and good energy and your gems with our talk community.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to do my very first podcast. I can say I was on Tiff Talks podcast, my very first podcast. Also, if I could leave the audience with anything.
Yes.
Make sure you purchase. I'm sorry, it's kind of blurry because I got to blur it out. But make sure you purchase my book. Being a Bully Stings is available on Amazon. You get it on Walmart.com as well as Barnes and Noble. Tell a friend to tell a friend, especially parents. It's a great book, a good book to start that communication at home about how to go into the school year. Teach them that their words have power. Share it with their teachers. Tell them like, hey, this is a good book for you to read to the classroom as you go ahead and start building your classroom culture, and start discussing how we're going to treat each other in our classroom. So a great book. Teachers, if you need to reach out to me, if you want to do it as a read aloud, I'm here. I could go through some sticky notes with you. We could set it up. Parents, if you want to reach out about things that you can do if your kid has been experienced bullying. October is National Bully Prevention Month. So definitely a time to bring the book back out. And then, like you said, advocate for those kids who don't have a voice, who parents are not as active as they are. Because parents, you got to remember that your kids have friends that they may come to your house one day and they won't share with their parents, but they may open up to you. So you definitely want to be that advocate for them as well.
Yes, thank you. I love that. And I was gonna ask, but I'm glad you took the lead because I was that was my next thing to pull it out. Where can we find you? Where can we buy the book? And also what resources are accessible? So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I do have a couple announcements for our top community. This is just the beginning. And this season, season 7, is going to be so awesome. This season is definitely going to stretch you and also challenge you. Some of the topics that we will be discussing are going to definitely be out of the box, including a full conversation on karma. I'm excited for that one.
Yes.
But a full conversation on karma and just other taboo topics that we need to discuss in an open forum to bring awareness and insight to make the uncomfortability comfortable in discussing. So I'm excited about that. We are also like knee deep in the thickness of the Visionary Retreat, which is a full 3-day weekend of self-discovery and self-awareness. We are 70% booked with our occupancy for rooms. If you have not booked a room and you plan to stay with us, you need to do that like right away. I think I'm gonna have to put like an expiration date because we getting down to the wire and I have to report to somebody, so I need y'all to report to me. Don't wait till the last minute to book your rooms. But I'm looking forward to that, and I will talk more about both of those in Talk Tuesdays, which will be returning this week. Yeah, you'll see me again on Tuesday. And then also the last thing that I wanted to share is this actual episode is a double feature. So we've had our time with Brittany today, and Jaden, who is our talk partner, actually took the lead on having a panel discussion with her peers, her teens, and her peer group about the same topics just from their perspective. So that is entwined into this. And I want you to share this information with your kids because it's important that they hear from us, but they also hear from their peers and people.
Wait, did she say intertwine? No, it was a takeover. Let me give y'all a sneak peek.
I feel like social media, it has impacted my life like a lot, but to a certain extent though. I feel like, and like, cause if you know me, I think you follow me. I'm gonna post. Like if I'm a post, you gonna see me on the ground. You gonna see me on the ground. But when you bored, the first thing you're gonna do is go to your phone. So it's like it's just a habit now. So I'm always on Instagram. I'm on all social media. Like I barely post though, but I'm still on social media though.
Yeah, I feel the same. I take things that I see on social media with a grain of salt. I'm not very like, because I believe people post and show what they want you to see. And it's a big thing and it's popular now for us, especially our age group, you gonna find out anything that you need to find out before you find out from a person. You're gonna find out before on social media.
On Instagram,
So,
yeah.
On Instagram, on TikTok, it's just so many.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Enjoy, stay connected. Right here, right here. Right here, there you go. Right here is our handles where you can connect with us. Of course, Instagram is our primary platform, and then all of our media is on our YouTube channel at JAYKC Podcast. Outside of that, thank you for taking time out Sunday to engage. And as always, I encourage you to keep talking. Have a good evening, everybody.